Hello everyone, welcome to Hawkeye Traders. My name is Randy Lindsay, host of today's live interactive session. Today is Ninjatrader Day, so I'm going to demonstrate and show you the proper use of Hawkeye tools on the Ninjatrader platform on the live edge of the market. If you do have any questions or comments on your GoToWebinar control panel over here on the right hand side, enter your question or comments there. I'll be glad to get to them in the order that they are received. Got my disclaimer up here. Make sure you guys understand that we are here for educational purposes only, that Hawkeye Traders is not an investment advisory service. We are not registered investment advisors, so we cannot tell you whether to buy or sell any specific currency or security positions. Make sure that you understand there's a large amount of reward associated with these positions. There's also a large amount of risk. You must understand the risks and be willing to accept them in order to trade in these markets. Please do not trade with money that you cannot afford to lose. Past performance of any of these systems is not indicative of future results, so make sure that you use common sense in placing your trades. Make sure you get advice from a competent financial advisor before you start investing your money in these markets. We're here to educate and show you how to trade with the Hawkeye tools, not necessarily give you any specific guidance or advice on whether to buy or sell anything. So with that disclaimer in mind, we've got set up here on the Ninjatrader platform. I'm looking at futures right now. NASDAQ has been stellar as of late with the rallies in the markets and the earnings season coming out. There have been a lot of blockbusters. There have been a lot of booms. But it's been an exciting ride. If you've been trading the NASDAQ market the past couple of days, then it's been well worth the ride. And yesterday alone was a huge day. I mean, as far as taking trades and managing them, if you simply followed what I've been teaching you all along, the Hawkeye method, there was a lot of money to be made in the markets yesterday. And hopefully you're doing the exact same thing today. Just in the NASDAQ alone, I've been able to take levels 2, 3, and 5 out of the market this morning on a nice little short move that came into the market prior to this correction back up. But I usually do not trade the open of the markets. I usually wait for the first 15 minutes of the market to settle before I go in. But you can see, even historically, that there's a huge move here in the NASDAQ, both down and up. And I think a lot of that was tied to Netflix itself and kind of the output and the rally from that. But that's just my conjecture of the market. But be that as it may, I want to demonstrate the tools to you. I want to answer any questions that you might have about them. I want to show you how we use them and how volume is really the key to helping you to see and to understand these moves in the markets. For NASDAQ itself, just looking at the 3-minute chart, I can see setups coming in. Coming in this morning, I usually like to sit down at my desk at 6 because starting at 6 o'clock on into the open of the market tends to be a really good time of day to trade. So I'm sharing that with you, my friends, because that's a really great time for you to look, especially if you're trading in the futures markets. This pre-market activity tends to be overlooked by a lot, but I don't. I tend to have the majority of my trades in this time frame, so that by the time the actual trading day starts, I've either made bank or I've already secured my daily gains so that I'm not worried about trading the rest of the day. Looking at the setup that came in this morning, when I see looked back at this to assess where I was, I noticed that Hawkeye was showing me some specific trade setups coming into this. I just saw a bunch, I just short downward trend. So when this price came back up to this level and then revisited that level and failed with volume, I knew that I was going to be looking for a short-term trade, a short trade on the shorter term. So that's what I was looking at this point. Looking at this as a downward volume showed me I was coming into this. Price action failed to create a new high at that level there. Okay, see that right there? It broke a new high, but it was no close. It was just basically searching for liquidity, trying to find people to get into a potential move up, but not finding any. And then it comes right back down really, really quickly. Here is an engulfing bar. Price is coming. So you can see really quickly how price was doing that. So this set me up. I'm saying, okay, I'm looking for potential short moves. Looking at the roadkill for longer time frames, I saw that that short potential came in right at the very first trend up, which is the perfect place. I have volume leading me into this trade. I got my initial trade on a breakout of this congestion region. So following all the rules, this became my initial front entry, and it became an easy one because my second time frame roadkill signaled, my third time frame roadkill signaled, and everything pulled into place. So at this point, then I can say, okay, this is a great place to start looking and entering short into this market. So short entry here, level 2 profit right here, level 3 profit right here, level 5 profit right here. So three profit takes on an initial entry point gave me a very good and secure trade in. Not once was my stop challenged, or did it ever come back up against me, except right in here where it came right back to my initial open point. Safe, secure. It's just a nice, simple trade. I could have done the same thing here, but I was getting ready for the webinar. I didn't want to trade coming up into that. The volume showed me that this trade where I took my last profit out, boom, gave me the potential for looking for a reversal setup, because here's a volume price extension bar showing again the exact same thing I saw here, but just on the opposite side. Buyers are intent on trying to push the market lower to get liquidity before they start reversing into a directional change. And then right here is where Hawkeye's trend came in, but you can see that the momentum of the trade had not carried forward, and I didn't get an initial signal to enter until right here. This right here became my very first entry right there, which would have been sufficient to give me at least 5 points, which is my minimum that I take in the NASDAQ market. 5 times 20, that's $100. So it's a nice, easy round number, and I like to be able to trade that in. So this again, prior to the market open would have given me another shot in the bank account, but I didn't worry about that because I was busy getting ready for you guys today. So looking at that as far as analysis, you can see how the tools worked together to help me to not only identify the trade, but to time the trade, the entry, to help me to set up a secure trade, and to help me to manage the trade and exit it profitably. Yes, the Russell is an awesome instrument, the RTY is. For some reason, I can't seem to get it on my Ninjatrader data feed, so I would love to trade it if I can get the data. I know I can get it on TradeStation, so I do look at that and trade it on the TradeStation platform, but for some reason, I just can't seem to get it on Ninja. I know you can get it, other people do, but for some reason, I just haven't taken the time to figure that out yet. But I think the Russell actually trends really nicely, and I think it's a good instrument to trade. $10 per tick. It's about twice as expensive as the NASDAQ or YM, but it's still a really good market to trade. VJ, you're using a 5, 10, 15-minute time frame for the Indian markets. Am I doing it right? Those are great time frames. 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15. So that looks like a good setup. You might want to take maybe a 5, 10, 20, because a 5 doubled goes to 10, 10 doubled goes to 20. 10 is not a harmonic of 15, so that's why you want to be able to look at potential harmonic time frames coming in. So that's the idea behind the time frames. 5, 10, 15 will work, but I think it might be just a little bit close. I would probably recommend, if you're using a 5 and a 10, to go with a 20 as your third time frame. Rick, how are you doing? How come my roadkill are all pointing to the 3-minute? Shouldn't they be looking at higher time frames? Absolutely. They are all on a 3-minute chart. Yes, but if you look at this roadkill right here, my first roadkill should be set up as a 6-minute. So if I were to format that one, you can see that my second roadkill is set to a 6-minute. So I am looking at a 3-minute chart with a 6-minute roadkill. Here, this heat map HT, if you were to look at that, then you can see that my heat map HT is set to a 6-minute also. And then my second roadkill, which is this one right here, should be set at 12-minute. And here you can see it is set at 12-minute also. So 3, 6, 12. Perfect setup. So those are the time frames they should be looking at. That's correct. Yes, BJ, it's good to use common time frames, and that's perfectly fine. 15-minute is actually a very good time frame to use. So maybe instead of looking at 5:10, maybe you can look at a 5:15:30, and that might be a very good setup for you as well. Wow, looks like a lot of weakness coming into this market. People who are trading breakout news, Hawkeye's already shown this as a downtrend. This is exactly why I don't trade the first 15 minutes of the market. I wait for all this noise to come out, and once the noise is out, then the trade that results from that trend gets you into that. But looking at this on the shorter and the longer term, looks like it's looking downward initially. So those of you who are waiting for this, this push up right here, you can see was the attempt. It came right up into the Globex highs here. You can see that the closes were just right at the top, but the reach was higher. You could see it was going to come down much quicker. This big push down again was trying to sucker people in and out, and then the push down here was the real move. So this is the volume. You can see that right now is the peak volume coming into this move. So volume again is telling us that this is a move, a real move down, and that's what we're looking for. Hawkeye has signaled on all 3 time frames here that the move is also down. So for now, at least in the NASDAQ market, we're watching for this, and I'm waiting for the 15 minutes to pass by before we can start looking at actual trends resulting from this noise. This is giving me a nice range of the day, but I need to be able to take that and define that as a actual trade entry. Yes, VJ. If you change to 5, 15, 30, will you get later entries than a 5, 10, 15? Yes. Yes, you will. You'll also have a lot less noise, and you'll also have um, a lot less trades. You won't be you won't be chopped in and out of trades as often. But try both time frames. As you're setting up, look at the market that you're trading and set a time frame that looks good to you, and then back test it. Check it to make sure that it looks like a good time frame for your market. Part of developing these time frames also is finding out what type of trader that you are. Are you much more stable with the faster or the slower time frames as a trader? How well can you take the drawdowns associated with the longer time frames? It's a character assessment. What about the gearbox? Yeah, the gearbox is a tool that allows you to set up the optimal time frame for the current market conditions, and it is based upon a triple time frame setup also. So the initial time frame comes in. Let's see, I don't think I have one in here. Let me open up a workspace that has that on it. Yep, I don't have a gearbox set up now, but let me pull that up real quick. take a little bit for it to calculate it. All right, so today's gearbox for the Euro US dollar is calculates at 1088. A 1088 is the fastest time frame. I usually will go with the blue, yellow, and red time frames of those. So this first one will be the time frame I would set to 2176, 4352, and an 8704 for that the euro, the US dollar. The euro looks like it's starting to this morning trend with a little bit of bullishness. The US dollar has been weak. It's trailing into weakness off using a 15-minute fat man. If I'm trading a 5-minute chart, 15, so 15 to 20 minute fat man would be an ideal setup for these time frames. But I would set my charts to these. So if you're worried about setting up tick settings in your market, then you don't want to worry about the fat man, about the gearbox itself. But the gearbox is a tool which helps you to trade with tick charts rather than with time charts, and it'll help you to set those up. Yeah, I don't trade Indian markets, so I'm not that familiar with it, but it's good, good to get that feedback. They only run 6 hours. Yeah, there's a lot of gap risks if you're trading around it, so I understand that for sure. So faster time frames will help you to trade in that. That's true. So let me set this up at 2176 tick. That's a 4352 tick. And an 8704. Oop, 4 tick. Looks like I need to load a little bit more data on that one. Control-Shift-R is a short key to reload the data and to recalculate. So I just need to pull that in and to reload that. Once you get that, you get all fresh data on the settings that you have set to. All right, so based on that, then Hawkeye is sitting here showing you the initial alignment. An entry actually occurred on the very first trend dot. The longer time frame waited for price and consolidation to come in line. So you got a couple of entries here, but the initial point entry of that started right about here. So it looks like you already are in, oh, what is that? Uh, yep, it's about 16 ticks. About 16 ticks there, so we're going in, and that looks good. So um, it's a great setup if you're looking at the overall conditions. The Hawkeye tools are set to help you to identify a much smoother market that you can identify trends and trade from, either up or down. Okay, let me go back then. Rick wants to know what time frame would you use on forex for MT4s. Okay, yeah, today we're just specifically focusing on Ninjatrader, but yeah, if you're looking at MetaTrader 4, they have fixed time frames. So yeah, 5, 15, 30 would be perfect. If you like faster, then you'd have to go with a 1, 5, 15. But 5, 15, 30 is the best time frame setups for MT4 if you're looking at that. You can always go offline and use odd time frames, but if you're trading forex on MT4, then that's the choice that you have, and it works great. All right, so now we can see the setup. First 15 minutes of the day, I can see I have a high and a low established. So within that range, I'm looking for a break of the high or a break of the low, and that would give me the trend. You can see that the longer time frame has broken down below my lower support, and the target I would be looking for would probably be about a 73.60 to the downside if I can get a qualified signal to enter. Now you can see right here that Hawkeye is giving me a short signal. Okay, I got a double dot sell. Everything is confirmed, but notice that this short signal came inside of my 15-minute range. So because of that, I can't take that signal. That's my rules. You could take that signal if you want, but you can see it just hasn't set itself up yet. It's not stable yet. It looks like it has a potential to come back down and to trade down into this range again. And the reason I'm using these trend lines is I don't have the Hawkeye zones for in Ninjatrader 8 yet, so I've done the next best thing, and I've gone through and I've tried to define some support and resistance areas which match. So and going back in time, and this is going back to the basics again, but I'm just looking at previous highs, previous lows, and I'm looking at these as potential support resistance. So when price gets to these levels, and I can see if it does, it tends to respect those levels, then I can see that those are levels which have historical support or resistance. And so once I see these levels the hard way, i.e. without my zones, right here, you can see that that would be a nice strong level as well. Then you can see that I can draw those lines in and use those as temporary support resistance until I can get the zones developed for the NT8. Okay. So if I were to trade this, then you can see if I put the horizontal lines in, horizontal line is an F6. I'll just do it the easy way. So I'll put this in right here at my top there, and I'll put one in here at my bottom there. There, that's the horizontal and vertical horizontal lines for my range. And then once I get a verified close one side or the other, and in this case it looks like it's developing to the downside, then I will take that as a nice short position. And that would be the idea behind that. Set it up, trade it in the direction of the trade, and set your targets, either fixed targets using your ATM or ATR profit target levels. And if it does close below this, it probably will be pretty quick because it wants to draw people into this new low. Ideally, you would want to be able to be trading on the pullback. You look for the pullback, you look for the first volume bar that showed the selling volume, which was this one. And then you look for that to get you into that trade. So any pullback back into this volume bar would be a great entry for that. I have rules that don't allow me to do that on the initial trade of the day. So while this would have been the ideal location for the trade right there, I'll mark it for you. That's the pullback range that you're looking for. Any price coming into this range would get you into that trade short. I personally would not be able to take that trade until I see a confirmed break. And yes, that will get me into the trade a little bit late, but that's okay too. Price will generally come back, and once this has been established as a low, price will generally come back and validate that as a low by coming back and testing it. So as price is here testing it now as a low, it could easily, if it closes back up against that line, pull right back up and start trending the opposite direction. But it can also, if it closes down below that, validate that. And since this now is no longer a low, this becomes a lower low and is the first validation that this is a downtrend. So if that's the case, it will need to come back and test this. So a pull back into this range then becomes your another valid entry point. So taking that as a trade would be this would be a good entry for that. If you want to take the trade as it develops, right here is the good entry. So once this bar closes, that confirms this and gives me everything that I need to take this as a short trade entry. Based on my rules. Yep, the retest would come right back there. So if I were to do that, okay, then I would sell there, okay, sell limit.
Order pending.
Right there. Price comes back up, hits that, that's a valid trade entry point. And if it triggers off of that, then
Order
I manage
filled.
the trade. So you can see as it comes back into that, that's a good test of that range. Now this didn't trigger any of my ATRs. It didn't get me into that trade anyway, so I would have to manually set my stops and my profit takes based upon this entry. This is a single contract, so you would have to set that up and manage it yourself. But let me see, the levels are not entered in, so let me put that indicator on. Hawkeye levels ATR, there we go. We'll set that up. I'm going to put that in as a 1. Set that up initially as a 1, and then we will see where we are on that. The closest I can get to it would probably be right about here, since that's my entry point. I can't get it down there. If this closes here, I might be able to put it there, but for now, it looks like I've set this up as a stop. I can offset it by this amount, so my targets will be down there. So I'll put that there for now, and then we can use that to help us to judge things. So I can set my stop at this level here, offset by this amount, which would put it right about here, or right up here where my Hawkeye stop actually is. Either one. Okay, so you can see this broke down below that low. It's coming right back. It's testing this range, but it looks like it's going just a little bit deeper. The structure high is right here. So you can see that right there is a very safe level position for a stop. So there's my buy market. I'll put it right there. Buy stop, that is.
Order pending.
So there's my stop for the sell that I've got there. And that's the amount of risk I have in this trade, because my line should actually move back down to there, which it's not going to. So this is about the same. So this much risk looks like I need to set my my reward level to that. So I'm going to go ahead and edit my indicators to set my risk and reward to be uniform. So I'll set that about a 1.5. That's pretty close. That's pretty close. Yes, the new indicators are coming along well. I'm really happy with the development of the new indicators and how they're working on. So it's great. So thanks for keeping me abreast on that. Right now, I'm working on and developing them all. Oh, excuse me. In TradeStation, and then we'll be putting them back on Ninjatrader and MetaTrader 4, and then TradingView. But yeah, they're all looking really nice. I like them. They're helping me to identify all volume-based tools. So based on that, um, I'm real pleased with that. So those of you who are new to Hawkeye, uh, once I get all those volume tools set up and ready to go, I'm going to be raising the prices of everything across the board. So if you guys are interested in getting Hawkeye now before the prices go up, I highly recommend you do that. Probably before the next week or two, because I need to be able to pay for the development of all these new indicators. So all the prices are going to be going up. This is not a good sign uh, for a short trade. Anytime I start to see this volume uh, bar stick down like this, and I can see it on the 6 minute, it didn't show up here, and it also didn't show up here, but it did show up here. So this tells me I don't need to be in this trade if it's starting to show volume coming against me. So if that's the case, I need to set this back up again here. If that's the case, then I should go ahead and exit the trade, because if volume is opposing me, I don't need to be in the trade. I can always look for a new trade. I don't need to wait for the trade to tell me anything different. The 3 minute is telling me that I'm still good. I still got selling volume, and I don't see any sign of that. I got a hook here, but all the volume coming from that is still selling volume. However, the 6 minute has identified that as a strong reversal bar. And then once this bar posts, this will be a pivot low, because the low is lower than the previous and the next. The high is going to be lower than the previous and next. So once this bar closes, this becomes a pivot unless this bar really slams down. But right now, this is set up as to be an isolated low, and that is going to push price back up about 3 to 5 price bars right into that range. So that's something that I'm not particularly interested in. So I would exit this trade. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now.
Order filled.
Take that trade out. Don't worry about it, because why stay in a trade if you have volume opposing you? There's no need for that. This could have easily continued on as a good trade, but I don't need that. I don't need the pressure of that, and it's much easier to take a much smaller loss than it is to wait for a full loss to be taken in. And I can just wait for the next setup. You're managing risk, and that's the whole idea behind it. You see the risk increases with these tools. When you see volume come against you, then just get out and wait for a good setup, another setup, because they always come. Let me look for more questions here. Can a trade be entered if the highest time frame roadkill is neutral, white? So you're saying that if the roadkill trend is white, can you enter a trade? Yes, because you're not really looking at the trend, you're looking for the volume. The volume itself has to confirm the direction of the trade. Rick, can you have a quick explanation of the Tomahawk scanner on Ninjatrader? Make sure you fully understand the relationship between the rows and the numbers, and how you reference them with the fat man. Yeah, on Ninjatrader, the rows and columns are switched. So if you look on MetaTrader 4, the Tomahawk currency pairs are on the top, and the time frames are on the side. In NinjaTrader, the individual currencies are on the side and the time frames are across the top. So what you're looking at is just the opposite of that. So you're looking for lights to go off this direction, Whereas on MT4 or in the other videos, you see them going off in this direction. Okay, does that make sense? I don't have that set up now to show you. I don't have Tomahawk on Ninjatrader 8 yet. It's only in Ninjatrader 7, so I cannot show you the Tomahawk system working on Ninjatrader 8 yet. So unfortunately, I won't be able to show that here. But if you can hang around and ask me after class, then I'll pull Ninjatrader 7 up and I'll get that loaded in, and I'll be glad to show you. Good. Uh, VJ wants to know what time frames do I use for crude oil? I use for most of the intraday futures markets, I will use the 3, 6, 12-minute setups as well. So for crude oil, I use the same 3, 6, 12-minute charts, and I will use those to for pretty much all of my um, futures markets. I can definitely show the forex markets. Yeah, is there any analysis you want me to do on forex before we're doing that? Because we can transition over into forex right now. You can see on the market analyzer that we've got most of the markets are trending with weakness today. Short, we got some neutrals in there. All right, you can see that the fat man is showing that the KISS is showing us that we have at declining issues greater than advancing issues. So we've got some bearishness in the market. Overall, the fat boy is trending with weakness. You can see gold and crude oil are also trending. You've got some decorrelation starting to come into these markets after an initial morning trend. But right now, we're starting to see that the Dow is starting to come back with more strength. The Nasdaq, it looks the weakest, but the S&P and the mid caps are all kind of stuck here in the middle. Right, fair value is here, so you can see we're just now starting to get out of that fair value range. So overall, so yeah, let me pull back over into the forex market then. Nicholas said you tried the Tomahawk before a year for about a month. You want to try it again? Yeah, for now, you can still give it a try for $47 to give you a full month of access to the software. And then after that, if you already own Hawkeye, the full suite of Hawkeye tools, then it continues on at $77 a month. Or if you don't own Hawkeye, if that's your only software, then it continues at $97 a month. But then that's going to be changing because all the new software that we're developing. So if you lock it in now, then you'll be grandfathered in. You don't have to pay the increased prices. So any of the subscription or any of the purchase prices now that you get in, you're grandfathered in. You don't have to worry about the longer term, any changes in the future. Rick, the Hawkeye Fat Man and the Tomahawk Fat Man are identical, except for the time frames. The Tomahawk Fat Man will allow you to input and show multiple time frames, any time frame, even on MT4, whereas the regular Fat Man won't. That's the only difference between the two. But as far as being able to see trends, overbought, oversold conditions like here, you can use the Fat Man or the Tomahawk Fat Man identically. If you see a position coming into an overbought range and then starting to come out, then that is a great place to start looking at exiting your trade. If you see the entry oversold starting to rise, that's a great place to enter a trade. So you can use this for the exact same setups. It's not going to be, but right now the Tomahawk Fat Man is not available on Ninjatrader 8 yet, so you're still having to use the regular Tomahawk on Ninjatrader 8. Yeah, so if you have the full MT4, then once your $47 trial is over after a month, then you'll be subscribed at $77 a month following that. So when it goes up, it's probably going to go up another $100 a month. You'll be locked in at the lower rate. That'll be much better for you. Are new tools coming for forex only, or can they be used for futures? They can be used for any of the software. All of our volume tools can be used in any market. So you're not going to be strictly related to only forex tools because it will be applicable to any market. The alerts are to tell you when overbought or oversold. Yes, so when you can set it up so that the alerts trigger whenever it becomes overbought or oversold. I believe on even on TradingView, I think you can even set it up so that the alerts trigger when they cross each other. So you can even have a euro US dollar cross, like right here. If you see those two cross each other, then you can get an alert off of that one as well. Yeah, the Tomahawk one needs to be updated as far as the alerts. True. That's correct. I have not developed any type of payment or any type of cost for the new indicators yet. So I'm still trying to work that out. Because I'm paying a pretty penny to make these and to develop them myself. So I'm factoring all that in. But those of you who are existing customers are going to get a huge discount on that. Because I'll make it as a separate volume package for advanced traders. So this will be something that I'm going to be having. I'll be including video training along with as well. So it's not something you just pick up and apply to your chart. I think a little bit of training needs to go along with it. So it'll be set up more for advanced users rather than just uh, people just starting out. Because they start out, they really need to learn the basics. They need to learn and understand volume and price interaction. They need to understand what momentum is. They need to understand overbought and oversold. All the background conditions necessary to be able to take a trade, to develop a trading plan. Once you get that, then then and only then should you start looking at, okay, the conditions met for looking at these. Because prior to this, Hawkeye has always been, we are looking at taking the trend. And once we identify the trend, we take the meat of the trend. We're not picking the highs, we're not picking the lows. But the new volume tools I'm developing are giving us the ability to identify the highs and identify the lows, and to be able to take those with about 5 ticks or less of risk. So we're trying to get that in and make that available to those of you who like to try to call the highs and the lows. But from that, it's going to make you take these trend trades with much more confidence. And that's what volume's all about anyway. That's what volume's all about anyway. The market analyzer is showing most of the markets in Forex are all strong. They're all long. Only a few of them are short. Okay, dollar Canadian was really strong yesterday, but it is already correcting today. All right. The euro is coming back. It's been extremely weak longer term, but it's starting to come back with a little bit of shorter term. But that's just only corrective. You can see on the longer term trend that is still down. And if you look at a big picture, oh, look, I've got a gap here, so I need to reload my data. That's the one thing I always look for. If I start to see gaps in my data, then I have got some missing data. So just refresh the data and make sure it's all good. All right, so that looks good. So let's tighten this in, see a little longer term picture. All right, so what we're looking at here is longer term. This is longer term. I just say until May, so I'm just going back just a little bit of time. But looking back to the 1st of June, basically, then you can see we're in just a consolidation range. Overall, there's a bunch of weakness, but that weakness is rallied back and now is starting to look like it's weakening again. See, you've got lower highs and you've got lower lows. So you've got a downtrend established and weakness. And so that's what you'd be looking for. Until the zones come back in, then I would be looking at the peaks. Okay, and here's another one here, looking at the peaks as my areas of resistance. And then I also look at the lows. Okay, where you can see these levels here. There's a region where you can see a lot of lows have hit here, 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 here. So this is a really great, you can see historically that's also been supported back here, right in here. Okay, so this is a great place to put a support resistance line. All right, so F6, was that it? Yeah. All right, so somewhere around in there, that's a great level. Also, you pick off the previous highs there. Pick off the previous highs here. All right, so you're looking for these regions of support and resistance to help you to see. All right, so right there. And there's obviously some ones in between here. I don't want to clutter my chart up too much. I just wanted to put in some values which are sound. These are just the outside ranges. If you go up to the closes also, then that can give you some specific ones, but don't worry about that for now. For now, I draw these to help me identify support and resistance until I can get my Hawkeye zones created for NinjaTrader 8. And that's the only reason I do that. The zones uh, help, it simplifies this whole process and it draws all of these for me automatically. Color codes them, makes it so that it's just easy to follow. Yeah, that's right, Keith. I mean, Casey, it's much easier to see identify the trend once you drill out and go to the longer, much broader view. And then I can start drilling back in again once I have established that, and I can start using that then as a perspective to trade from. Then from here, I can start looking at my shorter term trend channels. So if I wanted to draw trend lines at this point, then you can see I've got my highs. I can connect the dots. I can use that then as a good guide to help me to structure and to view the overall structure of this trade. I can see a new high has been set here, so that's trading within that. So I can either set this up as a new channel, or I can continue that same channel and then just make this a new line. So what I mean by that is if this were my initial channel, then I can just copy that and then create a new line, and then I can just move that new line right there. So I can just make it, that's just a new channel of this one, okay? Oops, don't want to do that. See that? So that looks, so far it looks pretty nice. It's holding most of the way. They look pretty good. If I had this connected to here, then let me try that on one just to see what it looks like. Yeah, there's potential in both. So, drawing trend lines, it's very subjective. So I'm not going to waste a lot of time on that, though. We're not here to go through basic drawing 101. We are here to just understand the overall trend. We can see that the overall trend is down. We do have specific support resistance levels. I've identified most of those here. And I'll put this as a different color so that it makes it a little bit easier to see. Should have done it for the first one, but uh, there. There. So there's my down channel. One more. So until I get my zones, these are going to suffice. And I always do it on my longer term hourly chart. So then from that, I can just take those and directly look back into the other ones. My 5-minute chart is starting to show me some weakness developing here. If this closes down below that, not only is it a price extension on opposing volume, then it also becomes an engulfing bar from a region of consolidation. So that becomes a nice reversal signal. Ideally, if it's a pivot high, I would expect to see price push back down from that. But unless I have strong volume support, it's not going to go down unless I have strong volume supporting it. Right now, you've got buyers in control. See, the peak volume that's come in so far is still from the buying side. If I look back on my 60-minute, my peak volume is from the sellers. So longer term, you've got sellers in control. Shorter term, you've got some buyers pressure on this market. Let's see who's going to win. Right now, I see a nice correction. Buyers starting to push this market into a corrective mode. So let's see if they're going to do it. Then where they're going to push it up to. And right now, looking for a 1168. So about another 30 or so pips higher if this does. So it did come back down again. If this closes back low, it's not engulfing, but it is a nice weak bar. But it did come in pretty weak. So that's okay. There's not a lot of strength in that volume bar. All right, I've been just chattering away. A lot of questions have come in, I see. Nicholas wants to know on that Euro 5-minute, where is your first entry? All right. Well, on this particular bar, let me pull in my bar here. You can see that this was the very first trend dot. Okay, but if I were looking at this as a 3-step entry, then I've got no momentum here. I've got volume, but the second time frame volume is wide, so I cannot enter at that first point. My first entry occurs right here. Okay, this is the first point where I can see that trend, volume, momentum across all 3 time frames satisfies the criteria that I need to get into that trade. That's not a very strong bar. I want to enter on strength. Also, the trend is good. It's 6 ways the market moves. We are in an uptrend, so that all looks good. So if I were, you can take a trade there technically. I would wait for a trade that gave me a trade entry with strength, which would be this point right here. So I would like this as an entry much better than this, just from a strength perspective. So this bar right here would be my entry bar for the 5 minute. VJ, as far as the tools and the packages, there's no switching or mixing and matching of the packages. The only way that you can kind of mix and match tools would be to purchase them outright. So you could subscribe to the standard package and then purchase the roadkill. But then if you stopped subscription to the standard package, you wouldn't own the trend or the volume modules, and so then your roadkill wouldn't work. So you have to keep the subscription going all the time if you were to do it that way. So, and if you need the roadkill and a few other tools, but don't need the rest of them, then you still have to get to the professional package anyway. So not much you really can do on that. Sorry about that. Okay, Rick says, if you were to trade forex now, what's the first thing you would look at? The first thing I would like to look at would be the fat man. Overall direction of the market, you can kind of see from the market analyzer. Most of the markets are long, but from the fat man tells you which markets that you would identify. So right here, you can see that the Japanese yen is the strongest pair right now. Relative to all the others, the yen is strong. Okay, the Swiss franc is next. Then you've got the New Zealand, Australian, euro. Then you've got on the weak side, you've got Canadian, dollar, and the pound. Those are the weak ones. So relative to the other ones, so strong versus weak. And I make the strength weakness just based upon the midline, which is fair value. Anything trading around fair value and in this range, you just basically say this is where they like to stay. Most of the time they're going to be in that range. But when they go to extremes, they tend to come back out and then come back into fair value and then go back out again. So they're going to oscillate between that range. So trends of strength versus weakness, overbought, oversold. That's where you look at. You look at this first, and that identifies. So if I'm looking at pairs of the yen, then the yen is the one I would be trying to trade against. So if I see a yen that is extremely strong against maybe a pound that's extremely weak, if this is starting to come out with a trend of weakness, and this is starting to come up with a trend of strength, then yes, that looks like it could give us a potential trade entry. Now this is really leading, and so the strength shows you what's coming, but it doesn't show you actual trade setup. So let's look at the pound yen right now, just to see what we're looking at. We can see that right now it's very neutral. You can see that the higher time frame is still long, momentum is there, but the trend and the volume have both gone neutral. So you can see that's probably gone into a period of sideways price or consolidation. So let's see, based upon our setups. So the pound yen, you can see that it is on the shorter time frame starting to build with strength, because you can see that this is already starting to pull in. So the strength of that pound, the weakness of the yen, this looks so much like that dollar, the euro dollar. But the longer time frame you can see is still down, and here you can see that weakness there. But that euro yen, you can see that the momentum here is still green, but you've gone into some unknown territory. What time frame is this set up at anyway? Five minutes. Okay, just want to make sure. It looked like it was more like a 15 minute than a 5. So the pound yen, this looks like that euro chart. Is it even updated? Oh, it's still uploading. That's why. I wonder. I was wondering why something was just not right here. This just does not look right. Yep, and the values still aren't the same either, because that's not the pound. Looks like my data's still loading. All right, well, in the meantime, while it's waiting, I'll go through and see if I can find any last minute questions here before we head out for the day. So my steps to find the trades, I look at the fat man, I pull up the chart, I see if there's a setup there. I'll look for most of the pairs of the yen, which could be trending and trading, and I'm only going to be looking at one since it's overbought that tend to be oversold. So an Aussie yen, a pound yen, maybe a euro yen. Those are the three that I'd be looking at right now based upon the current time frame. It takes out a lot of the other riffraff. I can see where they are on the charts, and if they on the actual charts themselves. Come on, what's going on here? Where's my data? Then it can definitely show up. That's the process I would do to identify and find trades in the forex. If I used the Tomahawk, then the Tomahawk has a scanner set up like this, like the market analyzer, but the scanner itself will show you the strength versus the weakness of all the pairs as well. So coupled with the fat man, it gives you a 1-2 punch. It basically says this is, you want to trade all of the US pairs because they're all strength. Or right now they're all weak. So you want to be short or long based upon the direction of that dollar and so forth. And that's what the scanner, the fat man, together will do for you. Yeah, I can pull MP4 up right away since I've got that going. I'll go ahead and get that going. Okay, well, here's MT4. This is the Tomahawk suite on MT4. I'm looking at the Australian dollar. I've got a bunch of other ones down here to pull up, but this is the first one I came to, so we'll just take a quick look at it. Okay, you can see on the Australian dollar that the euro is strong. Okay, euro is strong against the Canadian is weak. You can see dollar is fairly weak, pound is very weak, but starting to come back with strength. So you can see from the fat man, here's a 1 minute, here's a 3 minute, and an 8 minute fat man. You can see that the dollar is starting to come back with strength. The euro is still continuing strong, strong, strong. So you can see why it's very strong. So probably if I were to pull up a euro profile is probably a little bit easier. So if I go and pull in euro, then the euro will come back up right here. And here you can see strong, strong, strong. So all across the board, you can see that those have developed. So when you see the scanner identifying strength here in the shorter time frame, the longer time frame not so much, but shorter time frame for sure, then identifying those on 1 minute charts, you can see very easily when they align and when the fat man all align into a directional trade, then you can take that and trade those opportunities with a whole lot more confidence. So comparing that scanner, you can see weakness with the yen, you can see weakness with New Zealand. On the shorter term, you can see weakness with that CAD, a lot of weakness with the dollar. So those are all nice pairs to be looking against a strong euro. And when you see the fat man confirm that, then it just puts that into. And yeah, this is MT4. These are off standard time frame charts. So this right here, if you format the indicator itself, then you can see that that Tomahawk fat man can be set to be any time frame. So right here, it's set up as an 8-minute time frame. So I'm looking at an actual 8-minute live chart of the fat man. Right there. So it works the same on TradeStation or the Ninjatrader. On Ninjatrader, these are columns like this, but you'll see them, all the US dollars will go across this way, all of the British pound will go across this way, and so forth. So right now this is all US dollar like that. That's the only difference between the two. How does this relate to the trend dots? You're looking for specific trends. So right here, the first one is the US dollar euro, the euro US dollar pair. So there are 18 trend dots in the euro US dollar pair. So from that, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can count 18. That shows you there's a very nice long trend established on the euro US dollar. The second one shows the euro pound. So if you were to count that out, then you would see that the number that's there is the number that's here and so forth. The number on the yen, 48. Okay, that's against the Canadian dollar. That's this one right here. You can see there's a lot of them there. So that's what the relationship is. So these are showing you that the trends are long and the strength of the trend at the same time. And then this gives you against all the currency pairs and on different time frames. This shows you all the 1-minute charts. This shows you the 2-minute, 3-minute. This shows you the 15-minute. This shows you the 60-minute. You don't really particularly care about each box. The main idea is to be able to look onto this from an outside perspective and see the lights are on. Here, the lights are off. Here you can see dollar, the lights all went off, so we're starting to see trends of weakness redevelop in the dollar. So it looks like the dollar is going to continue to weaken based upon this. It's going to trickle, trickle, trickle. Once you start to see those lights go off, that's what's going to be happening on the shorter term. But longer term, strength is still continuing to stay strong here. So once you start to see these lights come on, like right here, against the dollar, the pound just strengthened against the dollar. But if you start to see that strengthen against the yen, if it strengthens against the Canadian and so forth, then you can see that the pound is starting to come back with strength. That's the first opportunity to be able to look over and to get those. If you have multiple pages set up here, you can quickly go between one currency to the other. Or if you have multiple instances set up, then just on your different monitors, then it's really easy to see those and to take those as trades. So if looking at the time step, yeah, this is 1 minute, this is 2 minute, this is 3 minute, this is 15 minute, and that's 60 minute. You can set these up to be anything that you like. So if you go into the indicator list here, the Tomahawk scanner, and you format that, then you can identify these time frames right here, and you can set them to be anything that you like. And that's correct. You don't have to worry about individual boxes. Not at all. You're just looking for the overall picture. Here, lights are on. Here, lights are off. Strength, weakness. Partial weakness. I do know that this top line is the US dollar. The second line is the pound. So I can see that the euro is weakening against the pound. The pound is starting to come back with some strength. I can also see on the 1 minute, yep, 1 minute, the pound is coming back with strength. Here it's turning, but I need to start to see it turn like that, and that's a really nice elbow. So if that's the case, then it will continue its strength. Here the pound is on a trend of weakness. So longer term, you can see that it's still very weak. But on the shorter term, I'm starting to see some strength coming in. So these lights are coming on. You're starting to see these lights go off. This last one here is the New Zealand. You're starting to see that the strength against the New Zealand is weakening. But against the Australian dollar, it's still strong. So that they go left to right. If you want to look into that detail, it's not required, but it's good to know. Anything against the US dollar is going to be a good trade right now, simply because you don't have a lot of strength in here at all. And that US dollar is extremely weak. But once you start seeing this coming back out, it can stay down here for a long time. But once you start seeing it coming back out with strength, and you start seeing these lights come back on here, then like you were seeing with the yen and the pound, these were both blank. But now we're starting to see all the lights starting to come back on. So now we're seeing transition, and we're starting to look for potential trade setups on those pairs that we're trading against these currencies. You can make it as detailed as you like, but if you keep it simple, it's probably going to reward you in the long run. This is an ideal setup right here. You start to see the trend, it goes weak, it breaks out, it comes back, retests it, boom. See that? What I was telling you earlier? And then you got strength of volume confirming that right there. Okay, this failed. It pushed out, you got dollar strength, it failed. Reject. Okay, and then it didn't follow through. It tried to come back, failed again. And then look at that. Euro strength came right back in again, and you can see it really quickly with the Tomahawk volume because the color of the strength, the color of the pair that's strong comes in. So dollar strength failed, euro strength succeeded, boom. And it all ties together. The scanner, the fat man together gives you a really nice picture of trying to be able to trade these successfully. That's right. For the fat man, these are 1 minute. This is a 3 minute, and this is an 8 minute. And those are all tied for 1 minute setups. I do have a 3 minute here. Yeah, let me pull up my Euro 3 minute. Now, so see these are all 3 minute charts. And you see the trends on those are longer because instead of looking at the noise of the 1 minute, that continuation trade that we saw here was just a full trade. You can see trend, 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 trend. Here's a trend pause, trend, 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 trend. Here's a trend pause, trend, trend, trend. So basically you've got set and forget setup. If you look at the indicator itself, time frame is set right here. It's 0, which means it's a 1 minute. Time frame on this one. Set as an M3, so it's a 1 minute, 3 minute, 8 minute. Looks like it's using the exact same setups. If you don't want particular pairs shown, you can hide them or show them. Obviously, turn them on or off. You have all the control. Change the colors. You can always change the colors as well. For the Tomahawk system, no. But I've got some guys working on this, and we are completely redoing the Tomahawk software system and the forex trading system. I've got a group of guys that are working together to put together our Hawkeye forex, and we're putting together a forex trading room. We're putting together a new concept of trying to get forex consistent, a consistent, simple approach to taking profits every day and trading it. And so we're going to show you that trading Forex can be simple, it can be consistent, and you can develop a trading plan of consistent profits. And I've got these 3 guys working on it right now. They're going to be able to show you the method. They're going to show you live in a trading room and walk you through it. So that's all coming up as well. So I want to be able to do that for you guys as well. So we're going to be using a combination of all the software, the Tomahawk's software will be as it is. Will continue to support that. Anybody who is currently subscribing to Tomahawk will be grandfathered into our new program. So whatever rates that you're currently paying right now, we'll continue to pay that. You don't have to pay any of the increased rates either. So if you currently have Tomahawk right now, then you're going to be automatically grandfathered into our new training classes. You can set these time frames to be anything that you like. So yes, if you want to follow the three time frame rule for the fat man on your fat man, then absolutely you can do that. It's not a requirement, it's a guideline. So we tell you that that's a basic guideline to follow, but you do not have to follow it. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. I digressed actually, and because my NinjaTrader feed stopped, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.